Minho's heart pounded in his chest. His legs ached from running, and his lungs burned from the effort. But he didn't move from his position between the monster and the child. Behind him, he could hear the small Letharian's frightened whimpers. Vrex stared down at the human with cold yellow eyes. This was unexpected. In all his years as champion, no one had ever interrupted a match. The rules were clear. Once the fight began, it continued until someone died, but this human had broken those rules. "Move aside, little creature," Vrex said, his voice like grinding stone. "Or die with the cub." Minho didn't move. His mind raced, trying to think of a plan. He had no weapons. He had no armor. Against a trained warrior twice his size, he had almost no chance of winning. But he had something Vrex didn't expect. He had desperation. And he had memory. Years ago, Minho had a sister named Gina. She was younger than him by 3 years, smart and brave and full of life. She wanted to be a doctor to help people across the galaxy. Minho had promised their parents he would keep her safe. They had been traveling on a passenger ship when pirates attacked. The ship's security fought back, but they were overwhelmed. The pirates began taking hostages, dragging people from their rooms. Minho and Gina had hidden in a storage closet. They could hear the screams outside, could hear the pirates searching room by room. Minho had held his sister close, his hand over her mouth to keep her quiet. The pirates found them anyway. They grabbed Gina and pulled her away. Minho fought back, but there were too many of them. They beat him down and left him bleeding on the floor. He could only watch as they dragged his sister down the corridor. By the time the authorities arrived, it was too late. Gina was gone. Dead. Another victim of galactic violence that no one seemed to care about. Minho had survived, but something inside him died that day. For years, he carried the guilt like a stone in his chest. He should have been stronger. He should have fought harder. He should have saved her. He couldn't save Gina, but maybe he could. Save this child, the arena master's voice boomed over the speakers. Well, it seems we have a volunteer. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause for this brave human. The crowd's confusion turned to excitement. Some began to cheer, others laughed. This was even better than expected. Not just a helpless cub, but a foolish human who thought he could play hero. "What is your name, human?" The arena master asked. Minho didn't answer. He kept his eyes on Vrex. "No matter," the arena master continued. "Today we have a special show, the mighty Vrex against a human and a cub. This will be legendary." Behind Minho, Hana had stopped crying. She stared at the strange creature who had placed himself between her and death. She didn't understand his language, but she understood his actions. He was trying to protect her, just like her mama would dot in the stands. Suji pushed through the crowd, trying to reach her friend. Security guards blocked her path, but she kept trying. "Let me through. That's my partner down there." Yujin, the security officer, watched from her post. Her hand moved to her weapon, then stopped. She couldn't shoot the human for trying to save a child. She wouldn't. Instead, she quietly turned off her radio and looked away. High above, Boyan recorded everything. His camera captured Minho's determined face, Hannah's hope, Vrex's anger. This was the footage he needed. This would change everything. Vrex had enough of waiting. He charged forward, his blade raised high. The crowd roared with excitement. Minho dove to the side at the last second. The blade crashed into the sand where he had been standing. He rolled and came up running, leading Vrex away from Hannah. "Come on," Minho shouted. "I'm right here." Vrex turned and charged again. His massive feet threw up clouds of sand. His blade whistled through the air, but Minho was already gone, darting to the side. He had learned something in his years of running cargo across dangerous space. He had learned that size wasn't everything. Speed mattered, intelligence mattered, and most importantly, survival instinct mattered. Humans were good at surviving. Vrex swung his blade in a wide arc. Minho ducked under it and kicked sand into the champion's eyes. It was a dirty trick, not something a gladiator would do. But Minho wasn't a gladiator. He was just a man trying to save a child. Vrex roared in anger, temporarily blinded. He swung wildly, trying to hit the human. But Minho was already moving, circling around to the champion's weak side, Minho's wife. Nari had been a combat instructor before she died of illness. She had taught self-defense classes on their home colony. Sometimes, when she couldn't sleep, she would practice her moves and teach them to Minho. "Everyone has weak points," she used to say, "even the biggest, strongest opponent. You just have to find them." Minho looked at Vrex and saw those weak points. The joints where the scales were thinner, the neck where the armor didn't quite cover, the eyes that were still blinking away sand. He saw them, but he had no weapon to exploit them. His hands were empty. He was just one unarmed human against a trained killer. The crowd was shouting now, some cheering for Vrex, others surprisingly rooting for the human. The excitement was electric. This was the best entertainment they had seen in years. Vrex cleared his eyes and focused on Minho again. The playfulness was gone from his expression. Now there was only cold rage. This human had embarrassed him in front of thousands. That would not stand. "You die now," Vrex growled. He moved faster this time, using technique instead of just strength. His blade came in low, then high, then from the side. Each strike was meant to kill. Minho dodged the first strike, barely avoided the second. The third caught his shirt and tore it open, missing his skin by inches. He was running out of luck. Running out of time? His body was tired, and Vrex was just getting started. Behind them, Hannah watched with wide eyes. The human was trying so hard, fighting so bravely. But the bad creature was too strong. Too fast. She wanted to help, but what could a small cub do? Then she remembered something her mother had taught her. Letharians might be peaceful, but they were also strong. Even the cubs. Their bodies were built for harsh worlds, with powerful muscles hidden under soft fur. Hannah looked down at the chains still attached to her legs. They were heavy, made of metal. If she could just reach them, maybe she could help the brave human Dot in the stands. A Galactic Council observer named Myray sat quietly. She had come to Kalax's Prime on other business and had been invited to the arena as a courtesy. Now she watched the scene below with calculating eyes. This changed things? This changed everything. Inside the arena, the air was thick with heat and the smell of blood. Tens of thousands of spectators filled the massive circular structure, their voices creating a roar that shook the walls. Beings from every corner of the galaxy sat in the tiered seats. Watching the sand-covered floor below, Hannah huddled in the corner of a dark cage. Her small body trembled with fear. She was only 6 cycles old, barely past infancy by Letharian standards. Her soft brown fur was matted with dirt and tears. She didn't understand why these creatures had taken her from her mother. She didn't understand why they had put chains on her legs. All she knew was fear. The memory of her capture still burned in her mind. She had been playing in the garden section of her colony ship when the bad people came. They had grabbed her while her mother screamed. They had put her in a dark box and taken her away. That was many days ago. Since then, she had been locked in cages, moved from place to place, given barely enough food to survive. And now she was here. Through the bars of her cage, Hannah could see the arena floor. Dark stains covered the sand. She didn't want to know what those stains were. Above her, the crowd screamed and cheered. The sound hurt her sensitive ears. A gate opened across the arena, and a massive creature stepped out. Hannah's breath caught in her throat. The creature was huge, covered in thick scales that shimmered green and black. It walked on 2 legs and carried a blade longer than Hannah was tall. Its yellow eyes swept across the arena, and its mouth opened to reveal rows of sharp teeth. The crowd went wild. "Ladies and gentlemen of the galaxy," a voice boomed from speakers all around the arena. "Today we bring you something special. Today, the champion Vrex will demonstrate the superiority of strength over weakness." Hannah pressed herself against the back of her cage. She wanted her mother. She wanted to go home. High in the stands, a human named Doyun adjusted his hidden camera. His hands shook as he recorded everything. He had been investigating the Vrin arenas for months, gathering evidence of their crimes. But he had never seen anything like this. A child. They were going to make a champion fight a child. Doyun had sent his story to every news outlet in the galaxy, but none would publish it. The Vrin had too much power, too much influence. No one wanted to anger them. So Do-yun had come here himself, determined to record proof that even the most corrupt officials couldn't ignore. His camera focused on the small Letharian cub in her cage. Even through the lens, he could see her terror. It made him sick. On the arena floor, the announcer continued his speech. Some say mercy is a virtue. Some say the strong should protect the weak. But we know the truth. Nature is cruel. Only the strong deserve to survive. The crowd cheered louder. Some beings raised their fists in agreement. Others waved flags bearing the Vryn symbol, but not everyone cheered. In one section of the stands, a group of Letharians sat in silence. They had traveled here to try and save Hannah, but the Vryn had denied their requests. Now they could only watch and mourn. Tears rolled down their furry faces. Near the back of the arena, a security officer named Eugen stood at her post. She was human, hired by the Vryn to help control the crowds. It was a job she hated, but she needed the money to send back to her family. Today, she hated her job more than ever. Eugen had a daughter back on Earth, about the same age as the Letharian cub. Every time she looked at Hannah, she saw her own child's face. It took all her willpower not to run down there and open that cage herself, but she couldn't. She had seen what happened to those who defied the Vryn. They disappeared. And their families never saw them again. So Eugen stood at her post and tried not to cry. The announcer's voice rose to a crescendo. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let the match begin. A mechanism whirred and Hannah's cage began to rise. She cried out in fear as the floor beneath her moved. The cage lifted her up and out onto the arena floor. Then the bars retracted, leaving her exposed on the blood-stained sand. The bright lights blinded her. The noise of the crowd was deafening. Hannah looked around wildly, searching for somewhere to hide, somewhere safe. But there was nowhere to go. The arena walls were too high. The gates were all closed. She was trapped. Across the sand, Vrex started walking toward her. His steps were slow, deliberate. He was in no hurry. The crowd wanted a show, and he would give them one. He raised his blade and let the light glint off its edge. Hannah backed away, her chains rattling. She was crying now, calling for her mother in her native language. The translator devices throughout the arena picked up her words and broadcast them for all to hear. "Mama, help me. Mama, I'm scared. Mama, please." Some in the crowd laughed. Others cheered louder. A few looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Vrex was only 20 feet away now. He could see the cub's terror, could smell her fear. It pleased him. He had killed hundreds of opponents in this arena, but there was something special about the truly helpless. Their fear was pure. "Please don't hurt me," Hannah whispered. She didn't even know if the big creature could understand her. Vrex understood. He just didn't care. He raised his blade, preparing for the killing strike. The crowd fell silent, waiting for the moment of death. This was what they had paid to see. Then something unexpected happened. A commotion erupted near one of the gates. Shouts rang out. Security guards yelled warnings. The crowd's attention shifted from the arena floor to the disturbance. A human man burst through the gate, pushing past two guards who tried to grab him. He was average height with dark hair and determined eyes. He wasn't particularly large or intimidating. He carried no weapons. But he ran straight toward the arena floor without hesitation. "Stop him!" The arena master shouted. More guards ran after the man, but he was fast. He vaulted over a barrier that was meant to keep spectators away from the fighting area. He hit the sand running, his eyes locked on the small cub. Vrex paused, confused. This wasn't part of the program. Who was this human, and why was he interfering? The man ran between Vrex and Hannah, spreading his arms wide as if his body alone could shield her from harm. The arena fell completely silent. The human looked up at Vrex and spoke in simple galactic common. His voice steady despite his heavy breathing. "You want to fight? Fight someone who can fight back." The cargo ship touched down on Kalax's prime with a gentle thud. Minho stretched his arms above his head and yawned. It had been a long trip from the outer colonies, and his back ached from sitting in the pilot's chair for too many hours. "Finally," Suji said from the co-pilot seat. She was already unbuckling her safety harness. I thought we'd never get here, Minho smiled at his friend. They had been flying together for 3 years now, hauling cargo across the galaxy. It wasn't exciting work, but it paid the bills and kept them moving. That was enough for Minho. Let's get this delivery done and find something to eat, he said. I'm starving. The docking bay was busy. Ships of all sizes sat in their designated spots. Aliens from dozens of different worlds walked past, some on 2 legs, some on 4, some floating in the air. Minho had seen it all before. The galaxy was full of strange and wonderful creatures, but something felt different today. The air seemed thick with excitement. Groups of aliens stood together, talking in hushed voices. Their eyes gleamed with an emotion Minho couldn't quite place. What's going on? Suji asked. She noticed it too. A tall creature with blue skin and too many arms walked past them. It was speaking into a communication device. Yes, I'm heading there now. The fights start in 1 hour. This is going to be the best one yet. Minho frowned. Fights. That word made his stomach turn. They made their way to the cargo office and completed their delivery. The manager, a short alien with gray fur, barely looked at them as he signed the paperwork. He seemed distracted, eager for them to leave. Is there something happening today? Minho asked. The manager's eyes lit up. You haven't heard? The arena is hosting a special event. Very special. They've got a Letharian cub. Suji's face went pale. A cub? You mean a child? That's what I said. The manager handed back their papers. Should be quite the show. The Vryn know how to put on entertainment. Minho felt his hands curl into fists. The Letharians were a peaceful species. They looked like bears from Earth, covered in thick fur, with gentle eyes and calm voices. Their children were considered sacred by most civilized worlds. The thought of one being used for entertainment made his blood boil. That's disgusting, Suji said. She grabbed Minho's arm. Come on, let's go. We need to leave this station. But Minho didn't move. He stared at the manager. Where is this arena? Minho? No, Suji said firmly. I know that look. Don't even think about it. The manager pointed toward the station's central district. Section 7, you can't miss it. Biggest building on the station. He grinned, showing too many teeth. Better hurry if you want good seats. Minho turned and walked toward the exit. Suji followed, practically running to keep up with his long strides. Minho, listen to me, she said. I know you care. I know you want to help. But we can't do anything about this. The Vryn control this station. Their laws allow it. If we interfere, they'll arrest us or worse. Then they'll arrest me, Minho said quietly. Stop being stupid. Suji grabbed his shoulder and forced him to face her. You can't save everyone. You tried before, remember? You can't keep doing this to yourself. Minho looked at his friend. She was right, of course. She was always right. Years ago, he had tried to be a hero. He had tried to save people. And he had failed. His sister Gina had died because he hadn't been fast enough, hadn't been strong enough, but this was different. This was a child. I just want to see, he said. Just to know what's happening. Suji sighed. She knew she couldn't stop him. Fine. But we're just looking, nothing else. They made their way through the crowded streets of Calaxis Prime. The station was massive, home to millions of beings. Shops and restaurants lined every corridor. The smell of exotic foods filled the air. On any other day, Minho would have enjoyed exploring, but not today. The crowds grew thicker as they approached Section 7. Everyone was moving in the same direction, like a river flowing toward the sea. Excited chatter filled the air in dozens of languages. Minho caught bits of conversation as they walked. I heard the cub tried to escape 3 times. The champion Vrex will fight it personally. This is going to be legendary. Each word made Minho's anger grow. These people were excited to watch a child die. What kind of galaxy had he been living in? What kind of civilization allowed this? The arena loomed ahead, a massive structure of metal and stone. Holographic screens floated above it, showing advertisements for the upcoming fights. Minho's stomach turned as he saw an image of a small Letharian, barely more than a baby, cowering in chains. I can't watch this, Suji whispered. Tears filled her eyes. Minho couldn't either, but he had to know. He had to see it with his own eyes. They pushed through the crowds toward the entrance. Security guards stood at every gate, checking tickets and weapons. The ring guards were massive, twice as tall as Minho, with scales that gleamed like armor. "Tickets," one guard growled at them. "We don't have tickets," Minho said. "Then move along." Minho started to argue, but Suji pulled him away. "It's no use," she said. "We can't get in." They stood at the edge of the crowd, watching as thousands of beings streamed into the arena. The noise was deafening. Excitement crackled in the air like electricity. Then, cutting through all the noise, came a sound that made Minho's heart stop. A cry, small, terrified, desperate. The cry of a child who knew something terrible was about to happen. It echoed across the station, amplified by speakers so everyone could hear. The crowd cheered. Minho closed his eyes. In that moment, he saw his sister Gina's face. He remembered her last moments, remembered his failure to save her. He had promised himself he would never let that happen again. He had promised he would never stand by while someone suffered. He opened his eyes and looked at the arena. "I'm going in," he said. "Minho, please," Suji begged. "Don't do this." But Minho was already moving. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have weapons. He didn't even know what he was going to do. All he knew was that somewhere in that arena, a child was crying for help. And this time, he wasn't going to fail. Minho's breath came in ragged gasps. Sweat dripped into his eyes. His legs trembled from exhaustion. He had been dodging Vrex's attacks for what felt like hours. Though it had only been a few minutes, he couldn't keep this up much longer. Vrex seemed to sense his weakness. The champion's mouth twisted into something like a smile. "You are fast, little human. But speed means nothing when your body gives out." He was right. Minho knew it. His muscles screamed for rest. His heart hammered against his ribs. Every breath was harder than the last, but Nari's voice echoed in his memory. "When you're tired and your opponent is stronger, you have to be smarter. Use their strength against them. Make them do the work." Minho looked around the arena. The sand, the walls, the scattered weapons from previous fights lying forgotten in the corners. Everything was a tool if you knew how to use it. Vrex charged again, his blade aimed at Minho's chest. This time, Minho didn't dodge to the side. Instead, he dropped flat to the sand. The blade passed over him so close he felt the wind from it. As Vrex stumbled forward from his own momentum. Minho grabbed a handful of sand and threw it straight into the champion's face for the second time. "You dare." Vrex roared, pawing at his eyes. While the champion was blinded, Minho ran to the edge of the arena. There, half buried in the sand, was a broken spear from an earlier fight. The shaft was cracked, but the point was still sharp. He grabbed it and turned just as Vrex's vision cleared. Now, the odds was slightly less impossible. Vrex saw the weapon and laughed. "A broken stick? That is your answer?" The champion moved forward carefully now, respecting the spear point even if he didn't respect the man holding it. His blade came down in a powerful vertical strike. Minho used the spear shaft to deflect it, just barely. The force of the blow sent vibrations up his arms and made his teeth rattle. If he tried to block another strike like that, the spear would break and probably his arms with it. So he wouldn't block. He would move. Vrex attacked again and again, each strike powerful enough to cut stone. But Minho flowed around the attacks like water, using the spear to deflect and redirect rather than block. It was exhausting, requiring total focus, but it kept him alive. The crowd was silent now, watching with held breath. Even those who had come for blood found themselves impressed by the human's determination. He should have been dead 10 times over, but somehow he kept fighting. In the stands, Suji had finally pushed her way to the barrier. "Minho?" she screamed. "Hang on." Doyun's camera captured every moment, every near miss, every desperate dodge. This footage would change the galaxy. He was sure of it. The council observer, leaned forward in her seat. Her trained eye saw something the crowd didn't. The human wasn't just surviving. He was learning. Each attack Vrex made, the human adapted. His movements became more efficient. His counters more precise. Humans were known for their adaptability. But this was remarkable even by their standards. On the arena floor, Minho's mind worked faster than it ever had before. He saw patterns in Vrex's attacks. The champion was skilled, but he relied on strength and reach. He committed fully to every strike, confident his armor would protect him from counters. That confidence was his weakness. Vrex swung horizontally, trying to catch Minho off guard. Instead of backing away, Minho stepped forward into the attack, inside the blade's arc where it couldn't reach him. He drove the spear point at the joint in Vrex's shoulder, where the scales were thin, the point bit deep. Not enough to seriously wound, but enough to hurt. Vrex howled and stumbled back, green blood dripping from the wound. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. This human had hurt him. Actually hurt him. The crowd erupted. Some cheered for Vrex to finish it. Others began chanting Minho's name, even though they didn't know it. The underdog fighting the champion. It was a story as old as civilization itself, but Minho knew the truth. That one successful strike didn't mean victory. It just meant he had made Vrex angry, and an angry opponent was a dangerous opponent. Vrex's next attack came with doubled fury. His blade moved so fast it was almost invisible. Minho blocked, dodged, retreated, but the broken spear shaft finally gave way under the assault. It snapped in two. Leaving Minho with only a short piece of wood in his hand, he was unarmed again. Vrex pressed his advantage, driving Minho back across the sand. Each step brought them closer to where Hana huddled, watching with terrified eyes. No, Minho wouldn't let Vrex reach her. Whatever it cost, he wouldn't fail again. When Vrex's blade came down for what should have been the killing blow, Minho did something insane. He stepped into it again, but this time he grabbed the blade with his bare hands. The sharp edge cut into his palms, and his own blood ran red between his fingers. But he held on. The pain was incredible. His hands felt like they were on fire. But pain was just a signal, and Minho ignored it. He yanked the blade sideways with all his strength, using Vrex's own grip against him. The champion, surprised by the move, lost his balance. For just a moment, he was off-center. That moment was all Minho needed. He released the blade and drove his fist into Vrex's throat, right where the armor plates didn't quite meet. It wasn't a killing blow, but it crushed the champion's windpipe. Vrex dropped his blade and grabbed his throat, unable to breathe. Minho didn't stop. Couldn't stop. He kicked the champion's knee joint, hearing something crack, used the last of his strength to sweep Vrex's legs out from under him. The mighty champion fell to the sand. The entire arena held its breath. Minho stood over Vrex, breathing hard, his hands bleeding. The champion was still alive but couldn't fight. Couldn't move. The match was over. It had lasted 30 seconds of actual combat. Silence filled the arena. No one could believe what they had just seen. A human, an unarmed cargo pilot, had defeated the champion of Kalax's prime. Minho turned away from Vrex and walked to Hana. The little cub was still chained, still scared. But hope shone in her eyes now. He picked up Vrex's fallen blade. For a moment, the crowd thought he would use it on the champion. But instead, Minho brought it down on Hana's chains, breaking them with one strike. "It's okay," he said softly, even though she probably didn't understand his words. "You're safe now." Hana understood his tone. She understood his gentle hands as he helped her stand. And she understood that this stranger had risked everything to save her. She wrapped her small arms around his leg and held on tight. Security guards rushed onto the arena floor, finally reacting. But before they could reach Minho, a voice rang out from the stands. "Stop!" Myray stood, her council robes marking her authority. "I invoke my rights as a Galactic Council observer. This match is declared illegal under the Treaty of Orphans Act. This arena is now under investigation." The guards froze. No one defied the council. Minho collapsed to his knees, exhausted and bleeding. But he kept one arm around Hana, protecting her even now. High above, Doyan's recording broadcast to the galaxy. The recording spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every news station, every social network, every communication channel was showing the footage. A human standing against impossible odds to save a child. Not his species. Not his problem. But he did it anyway. The galaxy watched, and something changed. Minho woke up 3 days later in a medical facility. His hands were wrapped in bandages. His body ached everywhere. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was or what had happened. Then it all came rushing back. The arena. The fight, Hannah. He sat up quickly, ignoring the pain. Where is she? Where's the cub? Easy, easy. Suji appeared beside his bed, gently pushing him back down. She's safe. Her family came for her. They took her home. Relief flooded through Minho. She's okay? She's fine. Better than you, actually. Suji's eyes were red, like she'd been crying. You idiot. You could have died. I know. You scared me to death. I'm sorry. Suji punched his shoulder, careful to avoid his injuries. Don't ever do that again. Minho smiled weakly. I'll try not to. A doctor came in to check on him. She was an alien with blue skin and kind eyes. You're very lucky, Mr. Minho. Your injuries could have been much worse. The cuts on your hands will heal completely with our treatment. When can I leave? Tomorrow, if you rest today. The doctor paused. You should know, there are many people outside waiting to see you. Reporters, officials, even some representatives from Earth's government. Minho's smile faded. I don't want to see any of them. I told them that, Suji said. But they're insistent. You're famous now, Minho. Everyone in the galaxy knows your name. That was exactly what Minho didn't want. He hadn't fought Vrex for fame or glory. He had done it because it was right. Because a child needed help, over the next few days, the full impact of what happened began to unfold. Doyun's recording became the most watched video in galactic history. People from hundreds of worlds shared it, discussed it, and most importantly, felt moved by it. The Letharian government issued a formal statement of gratitude to humanity. They declared Minho an honorary member of their species, a title rarely given to outsiders. But more significantly, other voices began to speak up. Parents from dozens of species came forward with their own stories. Children taken. Families destroyed. All for the entertainment of the arenas. What Minho had done was shine a light on something the galaxy had been trying to ignore. Ho, the human ambassador who had been investigating the arenas for years, finally had the evidence he needed. He brought formal charges against the Vryn Empire before the Galactic Council. The recording couldn't be denied. The crimes couldn't be hidden anymore. The Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every member world gathered to discuss what would become known as the Kalaxis Incident. Myre, the observer who had been at the arena, testified about what she saw. The Vryn arena masters claimed their fights were legal under existing treaties. But the Treaty of Orphans Act clearly states that no sapient child can be used for combat entertainment. What I witnessed was a clear violation of galactic law. The Vryn representatives tried to argue. They claimed Hannah was a willing participant. They claimed the human had interfered with a legal event. They claimed many things, but the galaxy had seen the recording. They had heard Hannah's cries for her mother. They had seen her chains. No amount of legal arguments could change those facts. The Council voted to impose severe sanctions on the Vryn Empire. Their trading rights were suspended. Their arena operations were shut down. And most importantly, a new task force was created to find and rescue other victims of the Bloodsports. Ships from multiple species, including human vessels, began raiding suspected trafficking operations. They found dozens of children who had been taken for the arenas. Each rescue was celebrated across the galaxy, but the story didn't end with political action. Something deeper had changed. Species that had never paid attention to each other's young suddenly cared. The image of a human risking everything for a Letharian cub became a symbol. It represented what the galaxy could be if people chose compassion over cruelty. Schools across human space began teaching about the incident. They used it as an example of moral courage, of doing what's right even when it's hard. Minho heard about all of this from his hospital bed, and it made him uncomfortable. He didn't want to be a symbol. He just wanted to go back to his quiet life as a cargo hauler. Suj. I sat with him every day, handling the constant requests for interviews and appearances. She turned them all down. They want you to speak at the council, she told him one afternoon. They're drafting a new treaty. They want to call it the Treaty of Olympus after Earth's star system. Minho shook his head. I'm not a politician. I wouldn't know what to say. You could tell them the truth. That protecting children shouldn't require treaties. It should just be what decent beings do. On the 5th day of his recovery, Minho had a visitor he couldn't refuse. The door opened and a group of Letharians entered. At the center was Hana, her fur clean and shiny. Wearing a small dress decorated with colorful flowers, she ran to Minho's bed and hugged him carefully, mindful of his injuries. Thank you, she said in perfect galactic common. Her family had been teaching her. Thank you for saving me. Minho felt tears in his eyes. This was what mattered. Not the politics or the fame. Just this small life that got to continue. You're welcome, he said quietly. I'm glad you're safe. Hana's mother approached, a massive Letharian with gentle eyes. My family owes you a debt that can never be repaid. You gave us our daughter back. You don't owe me anything, Minho said. Any decent person would have done the same. But they didn't, the mother said softly. Thousands watched and did nothing. You alone acted. That makes you special, whether you want to believe it or not. After the Letharians left, Minho sat in silence for a long time. Suji sat beside him, not speaking, just being there. Finally, Minho said, Do you think Gina would be proud? Suji took his hand. I think your sister would be very proud. You couldn't save her, but you saved Hana. That matters. I should have saved both. You can't save everyone, Minho, but you saved someone. That's more than most people can say. 2 weeks after the incident, Minho was cleared to leave the medical facility. A crowd had gathered outside, hoping to see him. Reporters shouted questions. Officials wanted statements. Minho ignored them all and walked to his ship with Suji. They had cargo to deliver and a galaxy to fly through. That was enough, but as they left Calexis Prime behind, Minho noticed something. His communication system kept pinging with messages. Requests for help from across the galaxy. People who had heard his story and hoped he might help them too. He looked at Suji. She looked back and smiled. What do you think? She asked. Thought about Gina, about Hana, about all the people who needed someone to stand up for them. I think, he said slowly, we might need a bigger ship.